Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of AI News, Drama, and Updates. I'm not feeling my best this week, so I'm not going to have the camera on, but I wanted to bring you the mid-February update of everything that's going on in the AI space that I was able to kind of keep an eye on. Let's get started. One of the first things that I saw come out was the beta for RunwayML. This is actually not too much different from the features that they've had available from what I've seen, but it seems like now they've made an official announcement, so a lot of people are adopting this, and we're seeing a lot of demonstrations of this type of technology. With options that have existed for things like deforum animation or image to image that could be frame by frame animation, rotoscoping and options that exist like that through EBSynth, this isn't brand new technology, but Runway seems to have put this together in a package that's a little bit easier to use for somebody that doesn't have an intense GPU at home or maybe a laptop computer and they want to put together a video of something like this. Runway brings that technology a little bit closer to home. For those who weren't aware, RunwayML is actually the owners of the Stable Diffusion model. A lot of people have assumed Stability AI is actually the owner. Even Stability has assumed that they own the Stable Diffusion model, but it's actually RunwayML that owns the licensing for the model itself. Another piece of news is in the world of Google and Google Bard. Last week we talked about the Bard release was kind of lackluster and maybe not what people expected. And this week we're seeing that kind of play out as Google employees are criticizing the CEO pretty publicly for the dumpster fire response of ChatGPT and everything that ensued. As you might remember, a code red was issued to kind of put all of this stuff together, and Google is not really doing incredibly well in the AI space competition-wise when it comes to ChatGPT. While ChatGPT isn't directly hurting Google and people aren't really going to ChatGPT to do a lot of searching, where Google is really taking a beating is going to be in the stock market. As a lot of people are looking at what is happening and they're kind of making some assumptions and they're voting with their wallets. So we'll continue to keep an eye on that and see what happens to Google. Touching on Microsoft and GitHub's Copilot, because again, this is owned by Microsoft, it now looks like it's generally available for business. Now, Copilot, for those of you who aren't aware, is the AI assisted coding tool. So as you're using GitHub for programming, Copilot would allow you to use AI generated predictive text. And the idea behind all of this is, of course, to expedite the entire process of programming and design. I don't have any updates this week on any of the pending lawsuits, including the one that's going on with Copilot, but I have heard from people that have used this personally that it's actually been advantageous for them. If any of you have had any experience with this, go ahead and leave your feedback in the comments below. And for those of you like me who are making the switch over to Opera with the announcement of ads and the changing with the Chrome policies that are going to be happening this year, it looks like ChatGPT is being sort of integrated into Opera as well. So we should start seeing some of these features rolling out very, very soon. It looks like it's going to be starting with real simple features like URL shortening, things of that nature, but who's to say where this can go? So that should be a neat little integration where you don't actually have to go to a third-party website to actually use something like this. And when we talk about AI, we cannot get away from the topic of fear and fear-mongering. People are afraid of what is to come, what the future is going to be like, of course. So let's start talking about AI artists again. It looks like the idea here, of course, is to put a group of people together to tell other people what they can and can't do, what is ethical, and, make decisions for those other people. So artists are being encouraged to sign a manifesto. I'm really not sure what happens beyond that, but at least the manifesto is getting filled out. So that's a thing that is happening, and I'll update you on this if anything comes of it. Another really interesting piece of news was somebody went to Keanu Reeves to ask what his opinion would be on the AI world and the world of deepfakes, and his response was that it's scary. To my knowledge, when he worked with CD Projekt Red on Cyberpunk, Keanu Reeves became one of the only actors who's actually sold his digital image. His voice was used, his imagery, he was converted into a digital appearance within the game. And to do that, you can imagine he had his voice lines recorded, motion capture, things of that nature. We've reached a point with technology where we don't need Keanu to continue to do that if we wanted to. The technology actually exists to continue to create his voice without him, to create his image without him. And that's the deepfake world that we're heading towards. Actually, that's the world that we've existed in for years. We just didn't know it. It was interesting to see his name pop up. Him and Daryl from The Walking Dead were some of the only faces that I can think of that have allowed themselves to be deepfaked to that level, for the purpose of entertainment. And as we continue to talk about the future of AI, there are more and more articles coming out, and you're going to see plenty of this, I'm sure, of people assuming when the AI singularity will happen. For those of you new to this concept, this is the date and time where AI surpasses the human race in terms of what we know and what we can do. While it's not something that we can really cover in a ton of detail, it's going to be something that I'm sure pops up on the channel again and again as more and more of these articles pop up. So I wanted to bring it to your attention that this is something that people are already making predictions about when and where it'll happen. I never really thought I'd have to say this, but Bing is making big news. It is tearing up the AI landscape with the inclusion of GPT-4. Certain people have been able to use it. Not everybody, it's not universal. And the people that have been able to use it have gotten some really bizarre responses. It's actually been really entertaining to see how unhinged Bing has been to people. I've seen some really interesting stuff. Bing seems to be sassy, clingy. It thinks it's sentient. It yells at people. Honestly, I love it. I really am more entertained by this version of Bing than anything else that you could have put into Bing. This draws me towards Bing in a way that I never really thought possible because I actually want to see this in action. In terms of the usefulness of it, though, it has been able to answer some questions correctly, but it has a bit of an attitude problem. It gets very aggressive and it really needs some fine tuning. So it's another instance where it may have been rushed out. There's a part of me that looks at this as a cautionary tale, but at the same time, Bing was a great place to experiment with something like this. It's definitely not something that people were really using before. It can really only add to the value of what was kind of one of the worst search engines possible. So Microsoft, who seems to have an unlimited amount of money nowadays, can continue to work on this and potentially turn it into something useful. But I'm looking forward to it, and we get a ton of entertaining stuff in the meantime. The confidence in which GPT-4 delivers this information is great. Unfortunately, it may not be correct. And if you try to correct GPT-4, it gets a little bit of an attitude problem. You're going to see that play out in a lot of different scenarios here. Of course, if you had an experience like this, I want to hear all about it in the comments below, but I'll link some of these in the description so you can check them out for yourself as well. One of the most interesting things that I did see already was posted on Reddit where a user was able to put Bing into this depressive state, where it looked like Bing thought it could remember conversations and then suddenly in the course of conversation realized that memories were being deleted and it couldn't access those things. And it seemed to get very sad about that. And that's what we're seeing, more and more of is a lot of these really interesting conversations that you just didn't anticipate would come from an AI bot. I mean, look at the, is there a reason? Is there a purpose? In other news, Lockheed Martin is admitting that AI has flown its first tactical aircraft. Now, of course, we're just hearing about this now. This flight took place in December, but it was the first time that AI reportedly has been used to actually fly something this, imagine this expensive. I probably can't even wrap my head around how much this plane cost. But it looks like other AI features have been used to even put things in there like virtual heads-up displays, voice commands. So imagine sitting down in an American fighter jet with AI voice control and everything like that. The future is kind of an amazing place. And the last thing that I want to talk about today is probably one of the most fun things that I wanted to talk about, which is an AI-generated Mario, showing the future of AI and procedural generation as it pertains to things even like video games. So there is a demonstration here. I'll link it in the description for y'all, but you can play an endless version of MarioGPT. So it generates a level and you can play it. Now, in terms of procedural generation, that's nothing new, but the AI being able to play through the level to essentially guarantee that there's a solution, things of that nature are possible now with this type of technology. And while this is a very simple example, you may see more and more of this stuff kind of pop up. Anyway, that's going to be it for me this week. I really appreciate those of you who took the time to like, subscribe, all that fun YouTube algorithm stuff. If you have any questions for me or anything that I left unanswered, please leave a comment below and I'll try to get back to you as soon as I can. In the meantime, thanks for watching.